Okay, so today we're going to talk about habits and how we can start to make this something that we can keep doing, right? That rather than just, hey, we're doing these 4 weeks of changes, how we can start to make that more permanent and think ahead, right? Make sure we have something in mind that's going to keep us doing this long term, so we can achieve better health overall. One thing to keep in mind as we're looking through all this, though, is we are in a tug of war, right? It's easy to think when we're in the gym, when we're meeting week to week, like, hey, this is what everyone's doing. Obviously not the case. You go out in the real world and it's more of this battle here, right? We're over here, nutrition, movement, like, hey, this is what we want to be working towards for health. But really, if we look at the rest of the world, we have culture pulling one way, right? We drive down the street, we've got McDonald's, we've got ads for you name it, right? Everything's tugging away from the healthy stuff we know of. We've got our old ways. If we were previously eating ice cream every night and going, our drive-through, some ice cream missing there, in our drive-through and all of that, we're also battling that, right? We're trying to change those old ways into something that fits along our lifestyle there. And then family and friends. Have any of you guys run into, like, you go out with family and friends and they're like, hey, have this drink, have this cake? Anybody? Yeah.
Easter,
right? We all get through Easter. It's a big deal, right? I was having a conversation with a patient just last week, and she was saying, I want to make these changes, but everyone's giving me, really hard time about making these changes. So it's real. And it's like, what's right, what's going to get you to where you want to be, but not everyone is quite on that page, especially when we're starting. And so recognizing this is a little tug of war, and it's something that we have to put our effort into to overcome those things, right? Hopefully, as we go through, those old ways become our new ways, right? And that kind of weekends out. And our family and friends either get better about not giving us crap about how we're eating or moving, or even better, they come over and they're doing the same things you're doing, right? Culture, maybe someday it'll change. But we can also surround ourselves, like in the gym here, with culture that's going to help us support our side of things. Okay.
So one of the things that we can do to reinforce our side of things is make sure we are very clear about why we're doing it and what your purpose is. If you're super clear about what your personal reason is for doing the work and making the changes, it doesn't matter what anybody else says or how difficult it might be for someone else to watch you eat a salad while they down a pint of ice cream. It just doesn't matter because you have your own reasoning and your own purpose, and you don't need to justify it or explain it to anybody. So a purpose is the underlying reason. It is the why. So if I said, why are you doing this? Why do you come to the gym 5 to 6 days a week? Why do you spend the money? Why do you spend the time? Right? Why? It's not just, well, to be healthier. It might be on the surface. But if you ask, okay, well, why do you want to be healthier? Oh, well, because I want to be able to travel in my 80s. Okay, why? Why do you want to travel in your 80s? Because it's fun, because it brings you joy, because you want to see the world, right? Like, because you've dreamt of this your whole life, right? Why is that important to you? And by digging into that and really knowing what your purpose is, you can then tap into that when things get hard. When you're waking up and you're like, I don't want to today, you can tap into that as your reason to get out of bed. How many of you know your why? Like, you're like 100%, you know what it is. Hopefully you do. We do goal reviews and we try to help you tap into your whys. If you don't know why you're doing this and you've got kind of that surface level to be healthier, then schedule a goal review. Please schedule a goal review with your coach. That's our job, is in that review session, is to help you find the underlying reason. Okay. And sometimes it's right there, but you haven't quite connected the dots, right? It's obviously there. Otherwise you wouldn't be spending all this effort. Make sense? Cool. Now, one of the things that we talk about, so over at the clinic, when we're working with patients, we do this process and we help patients isolate what's going to happen if they don't do something about their situation, right? So we go, okay, well, you're here, you're seeing me, you're supposed to be doing some movement restoration. Why are you doing it? Oh, to get healthy. Okay, but why? And sometimes when we're not quite contacting that why, we'll say, well, what's going to happen if we don't do something about it, right? And a lot of times it's, well, I'm going to end up on more medication, or I'm going to end up, with the consequences of diabetes, or I'm going to end up not being able to live independently when I'm 80 years old, or not going to be able to see my grandchildren, or whatever that is, right? And so looking at sort of like, what is your situation now? What are you trying to turn around? What are you trying to make better? What's going to happen if you don't make it better? So let's take sleep, for example. Some of you guys were getting less than 7 hours of sleep, and it's really easy to get along like that. Many people all over the world do it. But what's going to happen if you keep getting less than 7 hours of sleep every night? What is the cumulative effect? Not just on your tiredness, but how about in your life? When you're less aware during your day and you're making more mistakes because you have less sleep, and you're not as, your aptitude's lower when you don't get as much sleep. What is the consequence of not resolving the sleep? And sometimes looking at it and taking that big picture, and it might seem elusive, because it is elusive, right? You don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you can know for sure you're not going to be on your A game. So what does it look like going through your life not on your A game, as opposed to going through your life on your A game? So asking these two questions: what does it look like if I don't do something about it? And what does it look like if I do something about it? Imagine being, 99% of the time, right? You're having your best day every day, as opposed to being tired 99% of the time, right? And what does that look like? What does it look like for your children watching you go through life that way, right? And the example you're setting, the ripple effect could be huge, right? Showing your kids that having a good night's sleep is important to their life, their mental health, their productivity. I mean, it could be a total game changer, this little tiny thing. So if you're not quite sure why, that's the two things to look at. What is it going to look like if you don't do something about it? And what is it going to look like if you do something about it? What is that ripple effect? Yeah?
So this is it's a little depiction, right, of what happens as we're making changes and when we're deciding to make those changes. So, we couldn't go through life and we make all the easy changes now, right? We are not changes, the easy choices, right? Where we go through, we're eating our ice cream, we're sleeping like crap, we're just not doing anything right now. And then we get to the end of life and it's like, oh no, I now have to, ask my family to let me move in with them because I can't care for myself. I have to be on all these medications. And then you're making all these hard choices. Or the other half of things is you're making someone else make those choices for you. And it makes for a really hard life at the end of life, right? The other way to look at this, though, is now that we're currently more capable, right? And we can make all these hard choices and get things all lined up now, right? Start eating better, start sleeping better, working on our stress, all of those things now, so that we cruise through the rest of life and we just maintain that health and we get to do all the things that we're trying to afford with our purpose. So really, I mean, as we look at this, hopefully most of us look and we're like, I'm here, right? I want to make these changes now. I want to keep them so that I have a really comfortable rest of my life, right? And I can do all the things that I want to and I've always dreamed of doing. Cool.
All right. Have you guys ever known somebody who you look at them and you're like, why is it so easy for them to maintain their health and fitness? Maybe you've grown up around them and you're like, it's just easy for them and it's hard for me. Yes? You got somebody in mind? So this is the secret. This is the only secret, the only hack there is to that easy fitness that you see. Our social media, whatever, it's full of the easy, quick fixes, right? And we've all tried them, right? Please tell me you've all tried some of those things, right? Like, oh, if I just eat broccoli every day, right? Or if I just do this, right? And the truth is that, there isn't any hack to the system. There's no pill. There's no nothing that can make this happen for you other than this secret. This is it. This is the only thing there is. And it's your habits. That's it. There's no fancy magic happening. It's just your habits. So I'm going to read this definition of a habit, basically, because I don't want to miss anything. This is that important. Okay, normally I don't read slides, but I'm going to read a slide. Here we go. A routine behavior or action that is regularly performed almost instinctively. So give me an example of something you did this morning instinctively.
Brush your teeth.
Thank goodness. Thank you. Thank you for brushing your teeth. You what? You fed your dogs. That's so kind of you. Good. These are instinctive. You don't wake up in the morning and go, I wonder if I should brush my teeth today. It's going to take some time. I'm going to have to stand at the sink. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see how I feel when I get out of bed, right? It's not, you don't think about it. You don't go, oh, I wonder if I should feed my dogs today. I'm kind of short on time. I'd rather go sit down and have coffee for longer, right? You just do it, right? It's part of just what you do. There's no thought involved. So that's a habit. It's instinctive. It's often without conscious thought. Habits are deeply ingrained patterns that are acquired through repetition and become automatic over time. So, brushing your teeth. There was a time when this was not an automatic behavior for you. Do you remember? If you don't remember, remember teaching your children about brushing their teeth. It was not automatic. We wish, right? I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about? I'm still dealing with it, and she's 10. Okay. So, it was like, first you're like, okay, this is what brushing teeth looks like. And you do it for them. And then you hold their hand and you do it with them. And then you hold them down and you do it with them. And then, and then you get them that rinse that shows the spots they missed and try to get them to fix the spots. And it's like an ordeal, right? I'm like 9 years in, so I'm still dealing. So the point is that it had to be taught and then practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And now here you are in your young 30s and 20s and you do it automatically, correct? Yeah, you're welcome. Young 30s. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's mom and dad.
But you guys see how that was not automatic until it was drilled into you and you practiced over and over and over. And now it's a habit. Cool? You can do that with anything, but it takes a lot of effort in the beginning. That makes sense? Cool. All right. These behaviors can have a significant impact on our daily lives, influencing our health, productivity, and overall well-being. Imagine if you never brushed your teeth. Right. Huge impact. It's a tiny behavior you don't even think about. But yet you would have a huge impact on your life and your health if you didn't do it. For example, you may not be employed, right? Those of you who have children probably wouldn't have children. You have to get close to people for that activity, right? You wouldn't have, could you imagine, you wouldn't have children. No, but yeah.
It's true.
That's a big consequence for a little behavior you do automatically, right? You probably wouldn't have friends. You probably wouldn't be healthy enough to train here with us, right? Because there's a lot of consequences to bad oral hygiene that go way beyond the mouth and stinky breath, right? So that little thing that you don't even think about that happens so easily, it has a huge effect. And so do the other things you do in your life. So for those of us who have habits of getting home from work and turning on the TV and sitting down for the rest of the evening, you may not think about it at all, but it does have a consequence on the rest of your life. What else could you be doing with that time? What else could be happening? Could you become more educated? Could you become get a walk-in in the evening with your significant other and develop your relationship further? Could you be cooking and meal prepping for the next day? Could you be creating something, some piece of art? Or there's so many things that could be happening, right? And so these little things that we don't think about, those little things that are happening in your life that are habits, they have a big impact. And by looking at them and figuring out where you could improve your habits and where you could change your habits and what habits should be reinforced, right? Like a lot of you have the habit of driving straight here from work. You drive straight here from work. You do not go home. And then you go home, right? That is a habit that you may not realize is a huge deal to keeping in your regular routine of exercise and has a giant ripple effect into the rest of your life, right? Some of you have the habit of 5 a.m. workouts before the day begins, right? That habit has a huge ripple effect, way beyond muscles, right? You're more alert. You're a kinder human being. You're a better parent, right? You're a better employee. You're less likely to get sick. There's a lot of things that are benefited by those habits, okay? So these people that you know where you're like, why is it so easy for them and so hard for me? This is it. It's gotten to a point where it's all instinctive. They're not struggling with the decisions to do the things for their health. They just do them. That's why it's easy for them. Make sense? Okay.
Cool. So a lot of this is what we call the habit loop, right? And it's going to help us kind of figure out how can we hack into those so we can develop our own habits? How can we work within that system to disrupt some of the habits we know aren't beneficial for us? So the way it works is we have some trigger. So we'll take coffee because that's what's on the screen, right? We wake up and we're like, I'm tired, right? So that's our trigger. We have something that signifies that we're going to do what comes next, right? And then we have our behavior, coffee, right? And then we get a reward. We become more awake, right? So simplest pattern here, we're tired, we have something that fixes it, and we become awake. And so, I mean, we can think of any number of behaviors here. Let's see, another one. Let's say you're coming home from work and you're stressed, right? That's our trigger. What does somebody typically do? Maybe they sit down on the couch and they watch TV, right? And then they become relaxed, right? So those are some of those typical habit loops that we see developing. But they don't have to follow that pattern, right? We can start to recognize, this is my trigger. What can I do that's going to make it more healthy, right? Or make it more beneficial for me, right? So let's say let's take drive-through, right? So you're driving home from work and you're like, I'm hungry. So that's your trigger, right? We have our hunger. You see the drive-through, that's what your behavior is going to be. And then afterwards, we're full, right? So what's a way that we could switch that up though, right? So we have our trigger, I'm hungry. Maybe we don't go through that drive-through and we have a snack, that we have there, something else that's tasty, right? And then we're full, but we bypassed actually having the poor choice in there, right? So we start to change and hack into those things, having things that are going to be better behaviors that still give us the same outcome. Does that make sense?
And if you really wanted to change some of these behaviors that you have a strong trigger towards, you can be more dramatic, like just don't drive that way. If you have like a Dutch Bros that you're trying to avoid, right? Like don't drive by that Dutch Bros. Someday we're going to have nowhere to go. They're everywhere. Right. But like just go a different route. Sure, maybe that's 2 minutes to your commute. Okay, better than stopping in to get the Dutch Bros, right? Actually, if you don't drive through, it's faster, right? Or like if it's the TV one, oh my gosh, put your TV away. Put it in a closet. Right. Only take it out when you're having like a family movie night or a date night or whatever, right? Like just get it out of your sight. Hide the remote. I don't know, right? But you can do major things to hack into this. You don't have to be a victim of your environment. You can change the environment to help you develop those habits and make it easy for you. If you want it to be easy for you. The less things you have to argue with yourself about, the easier it will be. Make sense?
So as we're looking at this, right, maybe we start to recognize where our habits fall and you say, okay, I went and had, Dutch Bros. We'll look back and figure out what was the trigger there, right? And that's where you start. So we find the trigger and then we find what can we do next to, relieve that reward without going through that poor choice in there. What was that?
So before you change the behavior, you have to change the trigger?
Well, so no, we don't change the trigger. We figure out what the trigger is that led to that behavior, right? Because the trigger is going to be there, most likely, right? We're going to be tired or we're going to be stressed or whatever it may be. But if we recognize the trigger, then we can choose what the next step is. Yeah.
All right. So this is another piece of these habits and what people who are doing this long-term are doing. So this is called Successful Actions of a Successful Athlete. So you see people around you who've been doing this for a really long time, like 10 years, right? Like Patty's been at this for more than that, 15 years, even longer than that with your running history, right? Ed, you've been in fitness for a long time, right? These are the folks who've been doing this for a really long time. Tamara, how long have you been doing CrossFit? Yeah, okay. So that's what we would call success, right? You're doing it for a long time. That's what we need to build. Jeet, how long have you been doing fitness on a daily basis? No, okay. It's been 7 years with me. So here's some of the successful actions of successful athletes. Okay, one of them is you need to eat. I don't know if in the early days you thought you weren't going to eat and you were going to train, but it doesn't work. You have to eat, right? Fitness in 100 words. It's right here behind me. The very first line. This is Elite Fitness in 100 words. This is about as clear as it gets in terms of success in fitness. It starts with eat meat. The first 2 words are eat meat. Okay, that's what the successful athletes are doing. They're eating meat and vegetables, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Oh, I forgot nuts and seeds, right? So they're eating. That's the first line of Elite Fitness in 100 words. Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Step 1. Step 2 is keep intake levels that support exercise but not body fat. Okay, that's where we start to figure out how much. But first, it's figuring out the quality, which is what we're doing here in the quick cut, right? So number 1 is eating. Another successful action of a lot of athletes is logging your food. Not necessarily forever, but having some experience with that gets you some familiarity of your foods. Like, oh, I didn't know when I eat nuts, it gives me mostly fat and not very much protein. Oh, I didn't know that oats is mostly carbohydrates and has like 5 grams of protein per cup. Oh, I didn't know that bananas have the same amount of sugar as a candy bar, but it gives me a bunch of fiber and all this other great stuff. Like all of this comes from logging your food and looking at what you're logging. Does that make sense? So logging your food at some point for some stretch of time is one of the successful actions I've seen athletes do. Then we have attending classes. So I get to work with people who don't attend classes. They try to work out at home. They try to work out in a park. They try to work out in their bathroom. They try working, yeah, for real. Mm-hmm. Yep. Seriously. Yeah. Habit stacking, brushing teeth, working out all at the same time. It's thing. Trying to work out while brewing coffee. We're trying to habit stack, put one habit with another. We do it all, right? And the people who have the most success are attending classes. They're in a group. They are working with a coach. They're being helped. They're being educated. They're being taught how to move well, and they have a group to go to. Okay, that is one of the successful actions. Because of the coach, because of the community, and because of the friends, all of it. Okay, another successful action is consistent training schedule. So the folks who stick around the longest have a time they train every day. They're a 9 a.m.er, they're a 5 a.m.er, they're a 5:30 p.m.er. That is their training time. It is non-negotiable. They don't schedule things on top of it. It's not, I'll see if I have time tomorrow. They have a set training schedule and they keep it. Okay? That's a huge deal. In fact, over at the clinic where we're taking people from nothing, no movement, to something, the first thing we do is we just try to establish a schedule. That's the probably number 1 should be the first thing we talk about. And then we have regular assessments. Athletes who are successful in maintaining their goals, their body fat percentages that they want to be at, they're asking themselves on a regular basis, how do I look? How do I feel? And how am I performing in the gym? Those 3 questions, if they are all good, you're doing the right things and you keep going. If any of them start to waver, I look good, but I feel like crap, then you need to start changing something about your nutrition or your training. Okay? I look good, I feel good, but in the gym, I'm running out of energy. I'm just running into a wall after 5 minutes of a 20-minute AMRAP, right? Then we've got to fix something with the nutrition. Maybe it's how you're fueling yourself for the training. There's something there that we need to fix. Maybe overall you're not getting enough fuel, but there's something there. Does that make sense? So regular assessments. And our successful actions, one of them is in-body scans. The athletes who get regular in-body scans, they are checking themselves on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. They don't get off track very long because they're holding themselves accountable. They're going, okay, so if I'm going to like just go off into left field here with my nutrition, they have to confront the results of that, and they get to see the results of that so that they can be causative in turning it around. Okay. A lot of times what I see when people go off to left field and they're just over there doing whatever they're doing with nutrition, they just decided to take a break from taking care of themselves. And then they come back and they're like, I'm like, hey, let's get an InBody scan. And they're like, oh no, I don't want to know. Guys, you need to know. You need to know what that does so that you can be in charge of it again and get back on track. But avoiding knowing doesn't change the facts. You did what you did, and there is an outcome. And so InBody scans, taking a look at it, confronting the outcome of your behavior for yourself, that is a really important step. Okay? So regular InBody scans, I would say weekly or bi-weekly. Ladies, if you've never done it weekly, do it weekly for at least 3 months. So you can see how your cycle affects that scan. You need to understand how that works. There's a lot of change that happens on a weekly basis for women who have a cycle. Okay? Yes.
Yes.
I do want to go over my picture. Okay. How are we doing on time?
Not good.
Not good?
8:31.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It'll be worth it. So, here, do you want to start handing this out?
Yes.
So this picture is just a neat picture about what happens over time with habits. It starts out with just an intention, like, hey, I want to get fitter. And then we start to do something about it. We join a gym. We start attending classes. We're practicing. Let's talk about the quick cut, right? You had an intention to cut some fat off your body. Yes? Good. Then you put it into action. You showed up at your first meeting. Great. Then you started practicing. You're like, okay, I'm doing this thing now where I don't eat grains and I eat a lot of protein and blah, 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 blah. Cool. You practiced. And then we kept practicing. Here's the thing. All of you who are doing the quick cut for the first time, maybe even the second time, are still practicing. You know you're still practicing when you get off the quick cut and you go right back to your old ways. That means you were just practicing, right? When you get off the quick cut and you're still doing it and you're still getting results, then we're starting to get consistent. A couple weeks of doing this is just practice. And we're here practicing with you. When you keep doing it and you keep eating an abundance of fruits and vegetables and enough protein to support your muscle mass, then we are consistent. Does that make sense? And then you still don't have a habit. It's going to take months. It's going to maybe even take years to develop the habit, the thing that happens instinctively. It's not even a question when you go out to the restaurant on how you're going to order food. It's not oh my gosh, I'm going out to eat. There's no concern because you know how. It's a habit at that point. It's instinctive. If you're still worried about going to Easter with your family, it's not a habit. It's still practice. Make sense? You got to do this for a long time before it becomes a habit. Then it becomes a habit and it's instinctive and it's no problem. You're not worried. You're traveling, whatever. You already have the habit. You know how it goes. After that, it gets really easy. It gets so easy that when you go off of your habits, it feels like you're violating who you are because those habits have become who you are, right? In fact, it's so part of who you are that when you miss a workout or a week of workouts, you feel like something's wrong with you, right? That's when it's really been ingrained. It's beyond a habit. It's just who you are and what you do. Does that make sense? But it takes a while to get there. You guys, a lot of you who have been training for a long time, you know that feeling in the training side of things, right? That can happen with nutrition too. It just takes time to build that into you and how you do nutrition. Make sense? Okay.
Cool. So you guys all got the form that I just handed out. That is a little bit more specific about you and your habits and your purpose. We want you to spend some time and fill it out, right? It's supposed to kind of walk you through, what are you doing that's good for your health? What are you doing that's bad? How can we start to change and really make something concrete of that? So spend the time and do it. And then we're still doing the quick cut, still eating the same way, getting those 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, getting our protein, getting our sleep, and working out. all of that's still the same, right? We have one more meeting next week, and we'll keep going forward with that.
Yeah, and those of you who are just watching this video and are not with us, please don't miss next week. We need you guys all here next week in person for that final briefing. Okay, so please, thank you guys for being here on week 4. So week 5, those of you who are just watching, please be here. Do we have prizes? Oh, well, we do have we'll have to figure out who gets the. Okay,
you get another worksheet.
We'll figure out prizes for Stacy. Yeah, another worksheet. Yeah. Woo, paper. Hey guys, when you fill this out, please fill it out. Put your name on it. I forgot to put a line there for your name. Please put your name on it and give it to us. Bring it to us at the next meeting. We're going to add it to your member account here with your goals. Okay, so please bring it in so we have a record of that. This is all part of building you into that who you are state with your nutrition. Okay? Cool. Good job.
Yeah, right there.